got some former Pistons, man, just telling some funny ass stories.
This is what I'm loving this about the new NBA players, man. The openness and just them willing to talk about almost anything. Because I feel like with older players, when you listen back to some of those interviews, you don't get the behind the scenes as much. They might tell like a story and kind of like, titillate you a little bit with something. But Bruce Brown, I thought this was pretty cool. That entire interview, I think it was, their name is Title Podcast or Title Rundown, something like that. But that interview with Bruce Brown was pretty awesome. But he talks about why he was traded. And it's kind of a funny story, to be honest with you. You feel bad, though, for the guy. During the COVID offseason, teams would spend 2 weeks in the bubble and 2 weeks off going home to family. Bruce's first time meeting Troy, he told him he was going home for 2 weeks for his birthday. Then when he returned to Detroit or to the Pistons in the bubble, they decided to trade him. I mean, dude, it's funny, but also like, I feel like that's such a terrible reason to trade somebody. Like, I don't get it. But what were your thoughts on that interview, man?
I thought more Pistons fans would be upset with that, but I saw more of the fan base, a majority of the fan base. I don't want to say all, because I feel like there's still a lot of Bruce Brown fans out there. They were actually laughing like, oh, you want 2 weeks off your job? Like, they just kind of ignored the COVID thing. But the fact that he asked Troy, hey, give me 2 weeks off for my birthday so I can go back home to Boston, Massachusetts, and then, I'll work out, whatever. The fact that Troy did that, it's kind of savage, because he said we're looking to go in a different direction, and the player that he traded for to go in a different direction didn't even make the team, and he's like a EuroLeague star. I just kind of think that to me, that was the funniest part of that whole story. Like, yes. Troy's like, fuck your birthday. Like, that's basically what he said when he came back. Like, hey, you're not going to be here. You're not going to work hard. Why should I give you time off?
I thought oh my God. Like, it's just Bruce Brown. You should have known better. Troy Weaver, like you're saying, is a savage. He's all about his business. He doesn't want you messing around. He doesn't care about your birthday. He doesn't care about your family. He wants you working. He wants you with the team. And he's serious about it. Do you have like a little bit more respect for Troy Weaver after hearing this story, or is it just kind of about the same for you?
It makes sense now why he did trade him, because we never got context to it.
Yeah.
We had pitchforks out, like, why are you going to trade one of our better defenders for a bag of peanuts? But it kind of makes sense why the team wanted to go into a different direction. I could understand Troy's standpoint from it, but my only thing is, like, if you're not going to communicate with players to tell them, like, hey, I don't want you going to Boston for 2 weeks, I think I would have a little bit more respect. But I'm sure being an NBA general manager is a really tough job, and it's really hard to be so transparent with these players.
But you don't think anybody in the organization told Bruce Brown, like, hey, probably not the best decision right now to leave for 2 weeks? I have a feeling that someone said something to him. And there's still a little bit of this story that we're not getting all out from Bruce Brown. I also did find it funny that he said when he got back, like, everybody would just basically ghost him and just ignored him for the rest of his time while he was in Detroit. He's like, I was just kind of shocked, people you'd be friends with, dapping it up, whatever. And suddenly they're just like, they turn their backs towards you. I found that part to be pretty fun, a little cruel, but a little funny too at the same time. But Bruce Brown, man, I'm glad we got a little bit more context behind the trade too, to be honest. And I really did like that he said that Troy Weaver called him personally and said, hey, you're traded. So we know that Troy Weaver is one of those GMs. Because I remember some people on Twitter saying no GM calls you, but Troy Weaver, it is confirmed, he does call people and lets them know, hey, you're no longer a Piston.
It's kind of funny because he did have another segment on that podcast. I know we're talking about him getting traded, but he talked about the playoff atmosphere here. And I thought it was funny as hell because they asked him, like, Detroit, what's it like? What's it like at LCA? He said, Game 3, man, it was lit. He's like, Game 4, nobody showed up. They knew it was
Yeah.
over. I thought that was so funny.
But was game? I don't remember. I remember Game 3 being absolutely crazy. But I thought Game 4 still had a pretty decent turnout, though. Or maybe I'm misremembering it.
I don't even remember that playoff series because I knew we were going to win. I knew Blake had like a torn. I think he had a torn meniscus, but we didn't really know like the severity of the injury. We just knew he had like tape wrapped up to his like freaking middle thigh. He had like a stone cold knee brace. But that playoff series was, I was happy we made it, but at the same time, like I did not want Milwaukee. I wanted Toronto, even though Toronto won the championship that year. I felt like we matched up better with Toronto than any other team in the playoffs.
I really thought Detroit would steal one game from that series. I thought they'd steal at least one, but they didn't. Another former Piston, Chris Middleton, I believe he like absolutely killed Detroit in that series too. But, it was all put on Giannis' shoulder.